Welcome back. Welcome back to Oracles by MJ. I am she. How we feeling? What it do? I was about to say the norm. How we feel? I don't know. It was about to roll off my tongue. But how we doing? Today how has that blizzard been for y'all? It has been a hoax. It was not as severe as they said it would be. Had all these supermarkets empty for tissue paper and everything, like it was the pandemic 2019-20 all over again. And then I'm out here dancing in the snow. I had fun in it. Me and baby girl enjoyed the snow. Today's topic is teaching. Teachers, our teachers today compared to the teachers, let's say 20 years ago. The more traditional teachers. Okay? I asked a question to my coworkers today while I was at work. I asked 5 people, what is one word when thinking of the comparison between traditional and modern teachers? Now, the first answer I got was mentors. Mentors. Now, that is very big because when I looked it up on Google, mentors was one of the main things that stood out. And these days, I'm not too sure because I'm not in school these days. So from what I hear, from what I see on social media, there is no mentorship. There's more of a get in and get the job done because there is a check to be received. Okay, back in the day, 20 years ago, and I have to say 20 because I asked my Nana, the 6th person, this question, who is a retired teacher, high school, 12th grade to be exact, and she didn't want to seem so mature. So she said, it's only 20 years ago. It's only 20 years. So we're going to say the traditional teaching from teachers from 20 years ago in comparison to the modern teachers in the 2000s. And let's say now, because my brother who is 22 years old, 22, oh my God, he is 24 years old. He's a teacher and he's a 5th grade teacher. And although we both want similar outcomes for the student, and I'm not saying we because I'm not a teacher in that field, so I'm not included in that but they have the same outcome for their children, the ideal teacher. But navigating and how these teachers decide to get their students at the end goal is always different. Let me put this paper down. No, I need to hold on to my little receipt paper because it has the answers that I received. Now, number 1 was mentors, and number 2 is nurturing. I agree with nurturing 100%. Back in the day, the teachers were more mature in age, the way they dressed. They were more loving. They showed a more empathy. It seemed like they cared a little more about where we would end up after we left their care. Okay. Whereas the teachers today, from what I hear, is just behave while you're in my classroom. When you leave here, it really doesn't matter, but while you're in here, we need to do what needs to be done, etiquette in the classroom. Okay. Now, number 3 was challenging. And I received this answer from someone who is a former teacher, and he told me it's challenging because the students these days are influenced by so many exterior factors, whether that be their peers or social media or just what they see in the community. So there's so many factors that influence how they behave in that classroom, and he said no, he don't want to deal with it. So it's that challenge that he said. Now, number 4 was young. That's plain and simple. These days, like I said, they are younger. They are very much so younger. And back in the day, like I said, those were grannies, for lack of a better term. Those were grandmas, and they acted as such, whether they were strict as such or showed you love as such or just, catered to your need in that moment. They just were more nurturing, to go back to number two. But yeah, today these teachers are very much so more young. The older ones, they retired. They got up out of there. They say, "Yep, we're done." It just took its course. Number five, manners and morals. I remember that because when I was going to school, public school in Queens, there was a respect that we had for the teachers. There was no calling you by your first name. Miss Hopkins, okay? Miss Marcy. There was a Miss or a Mister. And then when I went to school in Manhattan, in the village, Greenwich Village to be exact, it was Cora. Tammy, my favorite teacher. Sleep in peace, Tammy. She's a Taurus. I love her. Oh my God. We can talk about her. But you know, we were calling teachers by their first names. And when my mother heard that, she was like, "Oh, we don't do that. Miss, that is your elder." So the manners, the respect, the how you are supposed to conduct yourself when you are in a classroom, whether I leave it or whether I'm standing right here. You know, so much has changed and things will continue to change. But we have to have a respect for authority. And that respect for authority starts in the home. It definitely starts in the home. So let's not ramble because I did not write this video down to prevent me from rambling. But yeah, teaching these days are different, even as far as how they dress. You know, the trend with the teachers on TikTok, you know, just with their pencil skirts, it probably is shorter than a pencil skirt, and their, you know, their heels or whatever have you, it just look a little more clubbish than professional. And whereas back in the day, my kindergarten teacher, Miss Hopkins, I remember her with the short curly hair and the glasses, and she looked like she had to be about maybe, I can't even say, because you know, back then, our 15-year-olds looked different than our current 15-year-olds. The ones now, they are a little more fresh and, you know. Whereas back then, we were a little more reserved. These days, they're a little more out there. The way we dress. I think that had a lot to do with how the students decided to dress and what they deemed appropriate. Like, oh, okay. Because this is where we are for most of our day. And then we go back home. We was in front of this woman who got on the long skirt and is strict with how I'm behaving, but shows me love. And then I go back home to where my real love and foundation is. Opposed to today, it's like, okay, I'm in class looking at this woman. She catching an attitude because it looked like she going through something that don't even have to do with the job, okay? She's acting like she's here for a check. And she have on the hottest sneakers. I want those. I'm jealous. You know, it's just competition. That's something I heard as well, as far as the modern teachers these days. Yeah. So I'm happy that I am out of school, but my daughter is not out of school. And guess what? I am her number one teacher, thankfully so. I am always thankful that I, you know, homeschooled her for the first 3-4 years, because if I was allowing others, plural, to implement their morals and knowledge and their wisdom into my child, and she come back and I'm wondering where she get this, what this whole going on. Yeah, I'd rather not. So it took me a minute to decide what school to put my daughter in. I had to research. I had to do some looking into, and, you know, and even still, you know, you don't know if you made the right choice. You just have to know you did your best. So yeah, teaching. It's a passion that you have to have. I remember when I was in college, upstate, I met someone, and I remember having a little gusty, and he came by, he was like, I don't know how we got on the topic, but he was from Brooklyn, and come to find out, my grandmother taught him, my Nana, because I have a grandma and a Nana, they are different people. My Nana taught him, and he had nothing but good things to say about my Nana. And I remember grading papers with my Nana. I remember going to the school with her and her introducing to me, and me always knowing I never want to go to a school in which my Nana works at, or any family member for that matter. No, no, no. Okay, so I feel like my nose is looking crazy. Not deleting it. But yeah, teachers, they mean a lot to us, okay? And I have two favorite teachers. One is Tammy, sleep in peace, and the other is Miss Marcy. You see how I said Tammy? Because we didn't call her Miss Tammy. Her name was Tammy. So yeah, that's when it started to shift, I guess. Oh, I love y'all. Thank you for locking in with me. Where we at? 392. Let's eat that up. Eat that up. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for locking in with me as I sit here and decide each week what topic I'm going to discuss. Oh, also, I had an article, I always do, on the topic. Real quick. This is just the abstract of a comparative study on the effectiveness of traditional and modern teaching methods. With the progress of the times, traditional teaching methods are gradually fading out of view in some developed countries, followed by modern teaching methods. Traditional teaching, often teacher-centered, focuses on knowledge transmission and memorization, while modern methods emphasize student-centered learning, active engagement, individualized instruction, and the use of technology. Because guess what? That's when we started to implement computers into the school systems and bringing them back home, and technology started to change. So I understand that. Also, I wanted to share this before I log off. Research on the appearance of teachers highlights a significant shift from formal, conservative, and rigid attire in the mid-20th century to more casual, flexible, and comfortable business comfort in modern times. This evolution reflects broader societal trends towards casualization, as well as a change in how teachers are perceived regarding authority and accessibility. Now, with that being said, now are we going to respect the teacher over there with the short ass skirt and these high ass heels over here trying to look cute and poking her little ass out because she's turning around writing on the chalkboard? Is that authority or accessibility? Later. And then you wonder why your daughter grew up to be a hoe. I mean, she probably grew up to be a hoe because mommy's a hoe. But guess what? That teacher that was teaching her with that short ass skirt,